Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Interrogation Podcast. Today's special guest is John Racine, a very good friend of mine who I've known for, crikey, how long? 6 or 7, more than that, actually.
No, it's been more than that.
About a decade, right?
Yeah, I
So,
think it has been.
John's a very good friend of mine, and he's a coach who helps entrepreneurs and individuals thrive through challenges. What does that mean? Well, John will explain that later on today. John, thank you for being on the show. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here and to share with your audience. Super excited, and it's always great to catch up with you.
Yes, it is. John, to start off with, tell me a bit about your background. What did you do before you actually became an entrepreneur?
What didn't I do before I became an entrepreneur? I did a lot of different things. Early on in my career, I was in restaurants. I thought I wanted to be a chef. I went to culinary school, got a culinary and business degree, got out, decided I didn't really want to be a chef, became a restaurant manager. Then I decided I wanted a life, which means I didn't want to work nights, I didn't want to work weekends, and I didn't want to work holidays anymore. So I had definitely picked the wrong industry, or so I thought. And it eventually transferred over to me getting into human resources. I was a corporate trainer for years and kind of got my regular schedule and really refined delivery message of how to train and instruct. And then eventually it led to full-time human resource management and directing. I've been responsible for 1,000 employees, 5 or 6 work locations around the country. And that's pretty much what I did before. That's probably the quickest summation I can give of it.
Okay, so you've been everywhere. You literally did any jobs you could get hold of.
Yeah, I've always been entrepreneurial, but the day job has always been somehow involved in hospitality or human resources.
Okay, so can you tell me a bit about what you do, and how you help your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a coach, mentor, strategist, whatever term you want to use. I help people overcome challenges, whether it's a business challenge like marketing or growth, or if it's a personal challenge like weight loss, relationships. And I know it's kind of an all-encompassing bucket, but I've created a framework, a unique system that works for virtually everybody that I call Resolve. And we talked a little bit about that beforehand and even in the intro. So we put a framework around Resolve that is a step-by-step process to help people identify the problem, identify the outcome, and then to actually strategically and tactically to overcome it. And not only that, but to actually continue to grow beyond it. So that's what I help my clients to do, is to identify the challenge, what the ideal end state is. Maybe I challenge it and say, hey, maybe you could do a little bit more, or is that really the goal? And then we go through that process to get there.
Interesting. So what do you actually get on the phone with them, or do you meet them face to face? How does that work?
Very much like we're recording this interview today, I typically will get onto a Zoom call. It could be a phone call depending on the logistics or the tech skill of the person that I'm dealing with. And it's likely going to be multiple sessions depending. I offer different packages, obviously, but usually multiple sessions is going to be the best. One of the things I learned from my corporate training world is that information overload is a very bad thing. So to go through the whole Resolve system in a very short time frame in maybe one call, not going to be the best value for the client. So I would rather stretch it out, really focus on each step of Resolve so that there is mastery of it, so that in the future you can refer back to the process and do it for yourself, and you don't become dependent on me, and I become a facilitator of that change for you forever.
Okay. And why did you call it Resolve?
As I went and I'd always been helping friends, family, and other people with their problems. And I tried to identify through them how I did it, because I'm too close to myself to know what I did. It's just natural. I just kind of do it. So when they started telling me the different steps, well, you stopped and you listened. Okay. And then you gave advice. Okay. And you guided and directed. So I kind of took all of that feedback and I created this pattern of what it looks like. And I said, okay, I wanted it to be something unique, something memorable. And I took each of the components of what they told me and came up with that acronym for Resolve. So the system is Resolve, it's 7 steps, and each letter stands for a different step in the process, which I codified from the feedback I got from all of the people that I've helped over the years.
Okay. Can you go through that? What do you call it? Oh, the steps. what
Yeah, the
resolve
step.
stands for?
So, yep, resolve. So each letter is a step. So R is recall, E is engage, S is shift, O is orient, L is launch, V is verify or validate, and E is elevate. So in the recall state, what we're looking for is a time in your past where you were successful. Maybe the challenge you're having is weight loss. Okay, you've never lost weight before. When in your past have you been successful? Was it when you were in school in a spelling bee, maybe? Was it when you were dating? Was it when you were competitive in some venue? Then we engage. So we actually engage the emotions from when you were successful in the past. And there's other tools and strategies in there, but we're engaging in those past successful memories. Then shift is changing the mindset to get into the present and the future. Orient is kind of where we're pointing towards that end goal, and then launch is where we actually go out and do it. So there's multiple steps that get up there. We might use different tools and strategies. Maybe we look at self-hypnosis or EFT, which is called emotional freedom technique, which is the tapping on the meridians. Any one of those strategies, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, I've got a whole basket of tools that get us up to that launch point, and then we launch. Then what we do is we validate. Are we on pace? Are we moving towards the goal? Do we need to move the goal or shift? Because the last thing we want to do is stop, right? We're validating and verifying that we're moving in the right direction, and if we're not, we shift to get back in the right direction. We take that validate and verify step, and we've achieved that success, and we get to elevate, which is the next steps. You don't stop, because when you stop, you don't grow anymore. So in the elevate step, maybe you've gotten to where you have gotten to that goal weight. Well, what is the elevate step now? Do you help other people? Do you share on social media? Do you maybe go target a completely different goal so that you can go on to that next phase in your life? And that's become the entire resolve system.
Excellent. How long does this process take?
It's individualized. It can be very, very quick. I've used this with people. I had a business. It was a husband and wife team that owned a racetrack, Phil and Liz. They were struggling with the operations of the racetrack. I have some business expertise, so I coached them through the process. They race 1 day per week. And in the matter of 1 week, they had it all shifted around when we analyzed where the expenses and the income were coming from and how it could be maximized and things like that. So it could be in a very short period of time, or it could be a very longer period of time. Maybe you're overcoming a breakup. Maybe there's been some tremendous loss, and it's going to take a lot longer. It's very, very individualized. I don't want to ever put a client into a box that says you should be perfect or you should be achieved in 6 weeks or 2 hours, because it is such a personalized journey. And I view this a lot as a lifelong process where you can use it over and over again. So you will get better and quicker with it over time, but I never want to put people in that box in the beginning. So it really does vary on the challenge, the mindset of the individual that I'm working with. A lot of factors go into it, but it can be quick or it can be a little bit longer and more structured so that it's really strategic.
Okay. So it's not something like an 8-week course or 8-week training course or...
I do have a Resolve group coaching program that I do, and it actually is an 8-week program. So we go through the 7 weeks, 1 step per week, RESOLVE. And then on that 8th week is kind of that free-for-all, a check-in. Where do you need some additional help and support? So I do have that 8-week program, but obviously I'm going to offer support to all of my clients after the fact, because I want you to be successful, right? That's going to make me better. It's going to help me get better at using the Resolve system to help more people. So I will dedicate that time to them. But I do have it in an 8-week box, and I fully know going into it, and I set this expectation with clients that you may or may not achieve that goal in 8 weeks, but you're going to be in a completely different place moving towards that success point in those 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm. The reason why I mentioned that 8-week course was, John, remember how we met?
How can I forget?
Right, guys, it was through me and John and I and a group of other people. We met through joining an 8-week course, a coaching course from a guy called Lee McIntyre showing us how to grow our business. And that was how John and I met.
Yeah.
We had our own group chats, our own complaints or
Yeah.
whatever. But anyway,
One of the
that was how we met. That
Yeah,
was
that was, and it was interesting because we maintained that relationship through all of those years. And gosh, if we really look back, it was probably somewhere in 2008, 2009-ish where that happened, maybe 2010. So we are looking at about that decade mark. And it was interesting because in that group, we've maintained those relationships. And I've taken that with me as I've built out my entrepreneurial following, as I've grown my business, is the community, right? You're never in it alone. And when you've got that community support, much like Lee created for us and how you and I are still friends today, that's what I try to do with my programs because community is so important. If we look here in America, one of the largest weight loss programs out there is Weight Watchers. And they used to have the weekly check-ins and it was all community support based. And why were they so successful? Because of the community. And that's really what I've tried to build into the programs that I do, Resolve definitely being one of those, because we can support each other. And I'm in a lot of group coaching programs so that I can get support and then I can support other people. So it really does become symbiotic.
John, can you give us an example of any really memorable success stories that you've had with your coaching? Any client that comes to mind in particular?
Yeah. Yeah, I talked a little bit about Phil and Liz, the racetrack owners. They had some food and beverage operations in there, so I was definitely able to help them. I know nothing about car racing, but I didn't need to be able to help them. If I look at another one, and they were highly successful. They're doing great. They're actually have their racetrack listed for sale, and they're looking for a large payout when they do that, when they sell it. Look at another client, Chad. He was struggling with a divorce and a child. So he had a very young child at the time, and he was really struggling, and he was in a very, very bad emotional place. And he had some demons that kind of revealed themselves during that. And I don't want to get into any of the demons and stuff, but we really focused on what was good in his life, especially his daughter, who at the time was, gosh, probably about 6 or 7 months old as this divorce started to happen. And we worked through that process. And he was one of the people that I went to and said, hey, how did I help you through that process? And his was a repetitive, multiple days, multiple hours on the phone. That was pre-Zoom and some of the face-to-face digital styles that we have available now. So it was a lot of phone work with him to get him to the place of accepting that he was a good person. The relationship was not the right fit for both of them. There was nothing bad about that. And he moved forward, is a tremendous father to his daughter. He recently had a cancer scare that he just beat and has been in a relationship now for, gosh, about 5 or 6 years. So he's been able to take that resolve process and use it going forward.
Excellent. In your experience, what do people struggle most with? What do you think their problem is? Is it their mindset, or is it their confidence in not? They probably know what to do, but they just need someone like to push them on the right.
Yeah, I think you hit on the top two. And I firmly, firmly believe that number one is mindset. And I speak as an expert on that because I had mindset issues for years and I didn't really realize it. Yeah, very early on in my adult life, I had a lot of mindset issues and I tried everything. And I can't identify one particular thing that worked. I think it was everything. I was always getting in my own head, and I think I had identified that I was afraid of success. So my mindset wouldn't allow me to be successful. And it was a really interesting thing. I did hypnosis, self-hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, EFT, all the things I kind of alluded to in Resolve, and some other things, coaching and so forth, to finally get to the point where my mindset is in a much better place, even adding in the last couple of years, meditation, which has been tremendous. So I definitely think mindset is the biggest thing that hold people back. We have a lot of subliminal programming from when we were children or from society in general that is so programmed. And one of the examples I'll use, I've struggled with my weight for most of my life. But do you know what I constantly heard as a child when I was having dinner? finish everything on your plate. They're starving children overseas, right?
Yeah.
So that subconscious programming has been in my subconscious since I was probably old enough to listen and understand. So as I've gotten older, I've gotten better with my weight now, and I understand that that subliminal programming was meant to serve me, but it served me in the wrong way, and now I can change that. And then number two, you kind of hit on a little bit as well, was you know what to do and you just need that push. And I've also had that myself, and that was much why I got into the program with Lee McIntyre and you, because I knew a whole bunch of things, but I just needed that proverbial kick in the butt to actually get out and do it. And I definitely think you hit the top two.
Okay, great. But interesting, John, because I never knew that about you. Mindset issues. No, you're
Yeah.
probably one of the most positive go-getter I know.
You know, I kind of learned as I was in human resources and in corporate training that I was an actor. You know, I had to put on a show for the students or for my employees that I was onboarding. And I really became almost an Academy Award winning actor where I could hide a lot of the bad about me and mindset. Yeah, I had a lot of insecurities. But I just became such a brilliant actor to be able to put on that face and that facade. You know, you look at some of the greatest actors of all time, and they play that role. And I viewed being a corporate trainer in human resources as being in a role, and I got so good at it that I've been able to travel the world and speak on stage, talk and present to heads of state in Bahrain as an actor. Always sincere. My message is always sincere, but the mindset issues that I did have were always masked. And definitely through the meditation and self-hypnosis and some other things have broken down the mindset, and I don't have those challenges anymore. So now I can be a brilliant John instead of a brilliant actor.
Okay, John, can I give you some tip on meditation? Well, what do you do for when you meditate?
Yeah, so this one was interesting. There was, I don't know if you have heard of the DVD that was wildly popular, probably in the 2000s, called The Secret.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so there was a guy in The Secret called Bill Harris who started a company. Did I lose you? Oh, okay, sorry. Who started a company called Centerpoint. And Centerpoint offers these meditation CDs that I use. So you pop in the CD or you download the MP3, and the first session is a 30-minute. You work up to a 1-hour session. And it really just kind of helps to align and open up some insight for you. And you can go into deeper levels. So what I do is not necessarily to sit with my legs folded, palms and Om and all of that, but it's a lot more casual, and the results I've had have been amazing. I pop on my Bose headset and play it off of my phone for an hour a day. Really easy. I do it first thing in the morning, and it kind of sets the day from there. So it's super easy. I think a lot of people think in meditation that there's no thought. You're really kind of zeroing out your mind, and that's the goal, according to Bill Harris, is to get to that point.
Mhm.
But it's almost impossible for the mind to get there. So by using those CDs and the MP3s, it's helped me immensely. And I'm a couple of levels in. There's still more to go, but I've definitely seen a change since I've done it.
Yes, because I think a lot of business owners or any professionals, they don't realize the importance of meditation. But right now, a lot of people are talking about it. And you
I
yourself, you find success with meditation.
Yeah, and I agree with your assessment. I think right now, business and meditation, and I'm going to call meditation as a broad category woo woo, right? Which is what a lot of people call it. But I
Mm.
think business and woo woo are mutually exclusive at this point. And there's a small group of people, I consider myself in that population, that have seen the tremendous value of blending business and woo woo and seeing just tremendous, massive results. If we look at one of the greatest personal development people of all time, Tony Robbins, he has business and he has woo woo. And he is wildly successful, multiple businesses, private jets, homes around the world. So I think we're awakening to the fact that the woo woo, the meditation, the spiritual guidance, and things like that, Reiki, healing, and all of that can actually be a tremendous benefit, especially in business.
Okay. Great, John. Now, can you tell us, how do you market your business? How do you get clients?
Yeah, one of the greatest lessons I've learned in marketing, and I first heard it from Gary Halbert, the famous copywriter. If you could have any advantage in the world, you know, you've got a hamburger stand, right? And what's your advantage that you want over another hamburger stand? And a lot of people would say, I want the best burger, I want the fastest service, I want the highest price. But the real ideal answer is, I want a hungry crowd. So where do you find hungry crowds nowadays? There's two primary places that I think you're going to find most of the people that would be my ideal audience. It's going to be on Facebook and on Instagram. And they are the same company because Instagram is owned by Facebook. So I use Instagram quite a bit, build out my following, share my message. There are a lot of the woo healers, coaches on Instagram that are building mass followings, and that's where I go to find my audience. And I also post on my Facebook page. So when I do my postings on Instagram, I toggle the option to go to my Facebook page as well. So I will get audience in both places, but I'm primarily focused on Instagram.
Okay. Can I give you some tips on Instagram, John? If I want to start a following on Instagram, any tips I should do?
Yeah, Instagram is kind of unique. It's kind of like the old days of Google, where you go into Google and type in a keyword and you would pull up the search and there it was. So search engine optimization, if you were doing that back in the day, it was all keyword driven. Instagram is very similar, but they call it hashtags. So what you want to do on Instagram is identify hashtags that are appropriate for what it is that you do. So if we look at me, I've got a couple of different sets of hashtags that I use. I use mindset, I use entrepreneur lifestyle, positive vibes, things like that. So what I do when I post is I decide, am I doing a business focused post or a more woo-woo type post? I will do a spectacular image. Sometimes I'll put me in the image. Sometimes it will be a stock image with some words on it. I do use an app called Word Swag, where you can take your own picture and put your own words on that picture, and then you can upload it onto Instagram. So I like to do that when I go to the theme parks, Disney, Universal. I'll take pictures, put my own words on it. I'll do a little write-up with that picture, and then you put your hashtags in there. So if it's the business one, I'm going to do entrepreneur mindset, things like that. If it's a woo-woo, spiritual, positive vibes, things like that. And then for my personal, where it's just me being John, it might be, I went to Disney and Universal Studios over the weekend up in Orlando. So it was hashtag Walt Disney World, hashtag Universal Studios. So I think hashtags are where you really need to focus to begin with on Instagram. And then that's just the beginning. Instagram is very much an engagement type of platform. So what you want to do is do a search for your hashtags in Instagram and find the people out there that are posting with those hashtags, read their content, and then like it and comment on it. It's a reciprocity or reciprocal based platform. So let's say, Alan, you post something in the woo-woo about consciousness, let's say, and you and I are not connected to each other. But I do that search on Instagram and I just say consciousness and I see Alan's post. Like, oh, that's cool. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to like it. You hit the heart. Then the second thing I'm going to do is I want to comment on that post. Hey, Alan, this is absolutely spot on. Tremendous share. Love what you're doing. Super simple. Couple of words. Post. Now what happens? Alan gets an alert that John liked that post and also commented on it. Oh, John liked that comment. I like that post. Great. Hey, thanks, John. Alan posts. Clicks on me and then goes back and follows me. So now I'm organically building my audience by actually going in, commenting, and being very thoughtful in commenting on posts related to what it is I do.
Uh-huh. So how do people find out about your website or anything from Instagram?
Yeah, what I do is in my Instagram profile, there is actually a spot for your website. So I do have a link in there that will pop up when someone clicks on my profile. The other thing I do is occasionally I will make a post where I will put the words link in profile in there so people can actually see that there is a post in my profile. And that actually goes to what's known as a free offer or something like that. So on mine, you click the link, you go there, you can do that opt-in, and you'll get a video that actually breaks down the resolve process and go through a lot more detail than I gave you earlier on in this interview. So link in profile. Once you've got enough, now I'm still pretty new to the Instagram game. I've got about 1,100, almost 1,200 followers. Once you hit the 10,000 number at the time of this recording, 10,000 followers, you can then have what's called a swipe up. So if you see somebody in an Instagram story, which is another part of Instagram, that's making an offer, and you'll see this all the time. Tony Robbins does it. Russell Brunson does it in the internet marketing space. Swipe up and it will take you to a separate website for whatever it is that they're offering. So once you hit the 10,000, again, at the time of the recording here, then you can actually do the swipe up, which will take somebody to whatever website you want to take them to.
I'm sorry, I'm quite new to Instagram. Actually, I only go there to browse other people's stuff. So this is very, very new to me, very interesting. So how often, how long do you spend on Instagram? Is like per day, for example?
I generally try to post 2 to 4 times a day, which only takes a couple of minutes. And what I typically do, because you're going to do Instagram on your phone, you're usually going to want to copy and paste your content, because in Instagram, as you're typing, the enter key doesn't add more lines. So when you hit enter, it actually adds a hashtag, which is the #. So what I do is I have an iPhone. I go into Notes, and I type my post in Notes, and then I copy it over into Instagram. So it makes it pretty easy when I actually get into Instagram. And then I will obviously scroll for a little bit to see what's in my feed from the people that I follow. Now, up at the very, very top of Instagram are going to be people that you follow. You're going to see their profile picture in a little circle. Those are the Instagram stories. So that's when people maybe want to go live, or they do a video and they put it to their story, not necessarily to their feed. Or maybe they do a post on their feed that they want to go to their story that says, hey, I've got this available, swipe up, or the link in the profile. So you'll see those people across the top that have those stories. So the stories is where you can take a lot of time, because some people are very prolific and will post a lot of content in the stories. My iPhone tells me how much time I spend on social media, and I do find every week it goes up a little bit more. But I'm building that following, sharing the message, and really getting my message out there. So it's time very well spent. I'm very strategic about when I'm on there. I try not to get sucked into being there to be there, but actually being very strategic, very thoughtful, finding people that I can connect with, that their message resonates with me, maybe my message resonates with them, so that we can help support each other. So it does take a little bit of time to prepare your post the way I do it. Maybe, and you've got a character limit. It's only about 1,200 characters, including your hashtags. So it's just a couple of short sentences, really, maybe 6 or 8, depending on your length. Prepare those out, leave them in Notes, and then posting, it's very, very quick. So I do try to do 2 to 4 times per day, and I try to mix it throughout the day. I have a lot of followers in Europe where you're located, so my early morning posts tend to attract them. My later in the evening posts, I'm on Eastern Standard Time. In the U.S. is going to be more of my U.S. audience. And then like New Zealand, Australia, the Far East, they'll catch it in their time zones.
Right. Great. It's quite amazing, because think about it. I'm always telling my kids not to go on social media, like stay off your phone. Then they see me going on Facebook. Then you're going on Instagram.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. I do know a woman, her son is in the, I think, 9th grade, and he decided to go all in on YouTube. And YouTube is a tremendous platform owned by Google. It's something that I will focus on down the road. I'm going to master one before I move on to another one. But he decided to go all in on YouTube. And he is doing video game recording. So he's doing a screen capture of his computer screen. He does not have a webcam. So he's not even in these videos. He does a couple of these a week, posting. And in a relatively short period of time, he's got a couple thousand followers. And he's actually starting to monetize it. So one of the cool things with Google is you can put Google AdSense, which is those ads that you see on Google for people that are listening and you don't know. Those ads, paid, sponsored, whatever the verbiage is, those advertisers pay for it. But people that put that code on their website, or in this case, in their YouTube videos, if it's just plays. It doesn't even have to be clicked. Then he makes some money. So he's actually building. He's got a couple $100 now in his AdSense account. So yeah, I mean, we do want to kind of scoff at the kids to stay off of social media, but so many businesses are launched and continue to be incredibly resilient, incredibly profitable, and just life-changing. We may want to have that consciousness shift on, is it really that bad? Maybe we just control it a little bit more, but we free up the reins a little bit. So it's definitely a discussion I think it's worth having.
Yeah, definitely. John, one last question. Why are you always at Disneyland? What are you doing there? No, I see a lot of your posts and you're always at Disneyland. What do you do there?
So when I was 10 years old, I went to Disney for the first time. And I grew up in Rhode Island, which is in New England, northeastern part of the U.S., and it was in the winter when I went. So if you've ever lived in New England or anywhere north in America in the winter, it gets really, really cold. You wear hats and gloves and heavy jackets and pants. Instead, at 10 years old, I was at Walt Disney World. I was wearing shorts and T-shirts. I was swimming in the pool at the hotel, and I was having a blast. And I really fell in love with Disney. And I decided at age 10 that I was going to work at Walt Disney World. I geared my entire high school and college career to getting recruited by Walt Disney World, which I did. 1994, Walt Disney World recruited me out of college during a hiring freeze. It was the first Gulf War. I was hired as a restaurant manager, and I absolutely loved working at Disney World, but it wasn't the long-term career for me because the growth was going to take way too long. But I never ever lost my love of the company. I love anything and everything Disney. I have the Disney credit card. I'm a Disney annual pass holder. I own the Disney Vacation Club. I lived in California for 9 years. I was an annual pass holder out there. Yes, I'm an adult, and I absolutely love Disney.
Excellent. No, I didn't know that. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, it's my happy place.
Great. So you had a goal and you went for it. That's your dream.
Absolutely. And actually, if I relate this back to Resolve, that was one of my successes that I used in that first step. Recall, when was I successful? When I was hired by Walt Disney World. So I actually used that as the set point in a lot of my Resolve work for myself.
Awesome. Great. John, where can people go to know more about you and to check out your services?
Absolutely. So I do have my website, and I set up a link for your audience. It's johnracine.com/Alan. So JOHNRACINE.com/Alan, ALAN. And it's the video for the 7 steps of Resolve. So it's the overview steps. And you can see my product offerings at johnracine.com. And we do have Resolve and the one-on-ones, the group coaching. I'm doing a founders group coming up in March. That's going to be available. And I've got some other exciting stuff coming up later this year. And then on social media, I'm John Racine Jr. on just about everything. Facebook, Instagram, and I think even my LinkedIn is John Racine Jr.
Okay. And I'll also put all those links in the description. So if you're listening on the podcast, go to either the YouTube or the Facebook page for this interview. You can also check out the links there. Great, John. Excellent. Thank you for being on the show today.
Alan, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing me with your audience. And it's been a blast.
Great, man. Catch up with you later.
Terrific.